Hello and welcome to the Lit Grove Open House. We're very excited to have you joining us. My name is Mr. Booker and I'm the principal of Lit Grove, and joining me is Mrs. Perry, our assistant principal. We want to welcome you to your open house. We're thrilled to have you joining us as partners as we work together to serve your children and their learning. We're going to talk about a handful of things tonight. So one of the first things we'll be talking about is our district plan for remote learning and the expectations that we have for scholars that will lead to greater success. And I'll also be having some conversation about what we could do to improve things. So we'll be seeking your feedback. At Federal Way Public Schools, we are committed to every scholar having a voice, a dream, and a bright future. I am going to be sharing some of the work we've been engaged in to ensure that our scholars are receiving what they need to be successful. We are incredibly lucky to be a couple of schools in Federal Way about to launch into some very exciting work around our positive behavior interventions and supports. We have a new online system that will allow us to award points to scholars for behavior that we want to increase. This means when we see scholars making good choices in a Zoom session, we can award them digital points. When we see that scholars have completed their asynchronous work, we could award them points. If we see a student who is doing a good job and being kind to a classmate, we can award them points. These are all digital points that are replacing our paper gotcha tickets. This means that we can award and track positive points. And what's even more exciting is this gives us an ability to host an online student store where scholars can then spend those virtual points. Another really exciting bit of news is the construction on the new Lake Grove building. We should be complete in December, so we're really looking forward to having that new building ready to go when we return to face-to-face instruction. Partnerships with our families and community is so important, and we're working really hard together to meet the needs of our scholars. We're super grateful for the strong partnership we have with our parents and guardians and members of the greater Federal Way community, and we recognize how critical it is that we maintain these partnerships now more than ever as we navigate our remote learning environment. Going forward, we're going to continue to make hearing scholar and family voice a priority. Your valuable feedback is how we continue to grow and improve and meet the needs of our scholars. We will be holding parent Zooms at least twice a month, and we actually do 2 days a month, plus we do one in the morning session and one afternoon. So there's actually 4 opportunities for us to meet and have conversations throughout the month. We are really looking forward to hearing feedback from families during the coffee with the principals. Also continuing this year will be our scholar advisory to the principal panel. So we have a team of students that we are assembling, and they will be meeting at least once a month to share their concerns, to ask questions, get those questions answered, and for us to get ideas on how we can improve and how we can grow, how we can improve in our Zooms and possibly even items that we could put into our student store. Your voices are incredibly important and they matter. And we are absolutely committed to hearing and elevating your voice. We're also open to increasing our communication. So we've made a commitment to keep you informed about what's happening within our district and in our building. Dr. Campbell is sending out a weekly newsletter on Fridays, and we actually send out our weekly newsletter also on Fridays. So please make sure to check in on those important updates. At Federal Way Public Schools, we're committed to every scholar having a voice, a dream, and a bright future. And I'm going to share some of the work we've been engaged in to ensure that our scholars are receiving what they need. We've been hard at work in Federal Way to meet the needs of our scholars and families as we engage in the remote learning, and we're a district committed to meeting the needs of our scholars and providing high quality instruction. This commitment has been demonstrated through our service. We have served over 850,000 meals since COVID closure. During remote learning, we've committed to providing technology to all of our scholars. To date, we've provided over 11,000 laptops and 1,700 hotspots to scholars, ensuring they have access to high quality remote learning. We have also provided school supplies to scholars at no cost, ensuring that everyone has the supplies they need to be successful. And we've just launched our School to You program. where bus drivers are delivering supplies and curriculum materials directly to the bus stops to help support scholar learning. Our day is actually on Tuesday. We'll also be sharing some key highlights from our plan for continuous learning. As you know, everything we do in Federal Way is driven by a strategic plan, which serves as a guide for all the work we do in our district. And our continuous learning plan is absolutely grounded in the core beliefs, the mission, and goals of our strategic plan. We've heard from lots of parents and guardians, family members, community members about the need for more support and consistency as we approach learning this school year. And our Continuous Learning Plan Committee developed the Family Guide to help provide this support. The guide is full of valuable information for families, including what it looks like in the day of life of a scholar, information about schedules, attendance and grading information, tips for setting up your scholar for success, and information about who you can contact for common questions. It's really important that all of our scholars follow similar guidelines and expectations while in Zoom. And what you're looking at on the screen right now is what we share with our parents. This is a more adult version of what we show to our students, and we'll show you that in just a moment. But one of the things we want you to notice is that we have an expectation in Federal Way that all students have their cameras on. Now, this is important because it helps scholars stay more focused and engaged in their learning, and it helps teachers connect with their scholars better. However, we understand that there are times where maybe the internet is just running a little bit slow and that camera has to be turned off so you don't get kicked out of a Zoom. We also understand and recognize that we're coming into your homes and there might be sometimes where you just need a little bit more privacy. So you're going to turn off that camera. And we can approach each one of those situations on a case-by-case basis. To help kind of with some of those privacy concerns, it is absolutely okay to have a virtual background, something that kind of hides what's going on behind. We know that, again, we're coming into other people's living rooms and dining rooms and kitchens, and we just want to make sure that we're respecting privacy and those boundaries. What we do ask, however, is that those virtual backgrounds be school appropriate so that it does not create a distraction. We also ask that all scholars are logging in to their learning through Launchpad to Learning. This helps us keep track of attendance, and it also is an equity measure, making sure that everybody has identical access. So we're not relying on emails and Zoom leaks that may change over time. We've got a one-stop shop for everything your student is going to need. We also ask that when students are in class that they stay muted, just to help maintain a orderly and quiet learning environment. We understand, again, we're coming into people's homes. So there's pets, there's dogs, there's siblings, there's vacuum cleaners, there's all kinds of things going on. But if we can help kind of maintain a good learning environment by muting, it's a pretty important thing to do. So we will actually ask students to unmute from time to time so they can respond to questions or have conversations with a teacher or a peer. But we do ask that for the most part, students kind of have that microphone muted unless they're actively engaged in an activity where they need to speak. Next, we also ask that students kind of raise their hand. It's very difficult in Zoom when we have multiple people talking because only one person at a time can talk. The system will automatically mute other people who aren't talking, and it's difficult for the computer to recognize who should have priority in being heard. So it's very helpful for teachers if students are raising their hand or using that raise hand function in order to get attention, and then they can unmute to have that whatever conversation they need. We also ask that, especially with scholars who are more comfortable with typing, they use the chat box. That is a great way for students to share ideas and to talk to one another in a way that isn't disruptive or interrupting the teacher who is trying to teach. So using that chat room is a great feature. And as our primary students get more comfortable with the technology and get more comfortable with typing, we expect to see the increase in chat box use with them as well. Also very important that scholars, when they log into their Zoom, they're using their real name. It helps teachers to take attendance. It's very helpful for our specialists who don't see their students every single day and are still learning and connecting faces to names. It really has not been a big problem in the elementary school. This is really more of a secondary issue where people are kind of changing their names around to be funny. Another thing that's more of an issue at the secondary school is just people logging into other Zooms to disrupt the classroom and the learning. There really has not been an issue at all here at Lake Grove or in any of the elementaries I'm aware of. Again, that's more of a secondary concern. This is what it looks like for our students. So everything we just talked about, we have condensed into this very student-friendly chart. We call it the MAC, the MAC, Movement, Activity, and Conversation. You'll see that we ask students to sit at their computer. We ask them to, if they're on their phone or their tablet, to sit so it's not bouncing all over the place and making people dizzy. We ask that they have their body be calm. For the most part, we can see their head and their shoulders, but if they've got a little fidget underneath their camera where it can't be seen, that's okay. If they're tapping their toes, that's absolutely fine. We understand we're asking students to sit in front of a computer screen for 3 hours at a time, and they're going to need to get their wiggles out. So we have time built in to the day so that they can exercise and get their brain breaks. So, but we do ask that they are sitting calm and they're not rolling around on the floor or crawling under blankets or engaging in disruptive behavior that kind of draws attention away from the classroom and the teacher. We also ask that, again, students have their videos on so we can see their faces and we can make sure that they're engaging. One of the things we're looking for is to make sure that students have their eyes watching the presentation. And we're also listening and watching to make sure kids are listening. One of the things that went home in that School to You packet were headphones. So if you did not receive your headphones this last drop off, make sure you come back to the School to You drop off and pick up your headphones. There's a whole bundle and we have a whole lot of them left, so make sure you've picked them up. We also ask that students learn under conversation that voice level 0 equals no microphones, right? So mute that microphone. And a lot of our teachers have little signs that they can hold up to get attention to mute those microphones. We also ask again that students are raising their hand to speak. And then finally, we're putting a lot of focus and effort into kind words and actions. You'll see, if you're in the room as your child is kind of progressing through their day, you'll see that we have a social emotional lesson that happens in the morning meetings. And then during counselor session, they're working on social emotional lessons, learning about what it means to use kind words and actions. Our librarian is working with students on their digital citizenship work, and they're talking about rings of responsibility and what it's like to be a good digital citizen. So those are all things that we are working on and very much focused on, because we recognize the importance of not only the academics that we're working on in relation to math and language arts, but also that social emotional component. Next, during time of remote learning, we want to make sure that everyone understands that we are taking attendance every single day. And it's incredibly important that your child is engaging in school, both in the synchronous and that asynchronous session, because learning is graded this year and attendance is essential for their success in school. Now, the teacher will be responsible for marking scholars absent during those synchronous learning times, but on like Wednesday, those asynchronous times, attendance is determined based on the scholar logging into Launchpad for Learning. So make sure that they're logging in to Launchpad for Learning to get that asynchronous work. And if your child is absent, make sure you call in to the office to let us know. Now, it's critical for scholars to log into Launchpad every day. This is a one-stop shop for scholars to access their learning every single day. This is how they'll access Canvas, iReady, and other learning tools. And Launchpad Learning is also how scholar attendance for the asynchronous learning time is going to be taken. So make sure to always remember to use your Launchpad every single day. Now, you'll be learning more about Parent View throughout the year. It's an incredibly important tool that allows you to monitor your child's progress on standards and to check their attendance. And it's also a great way to communicate with you about how your child is doing on those grade level expectations. So use that to check in regularly, and that'll let you know kind of how they're doing and when it's necessary to reach out to your teacher. We know that remote learning is still new for a lot of us, and to be successful, we've included some important tips to support your child's success in remote learning each and every day. First, make sure to set up a consistent place for your child to learn in that remote learning environment. And it's great, even if they could make some signs, some like "Do not disturb me" signs they could put up on their bedroom door, just indicators to show that this is a place where they're doing their work. Since we do have a structured schedule, it's important to establish routines for bedtime, for waking up, and then making sure that you're checking in with your child. It's incredibly important. And you're a great person to be able to encourage them from home and talk about what they're learning. And you can maybe have them help explain what they're working on, have them show you what they're doing in their asynchronous work. But most importantly, please make sure to continue to praise your child as they're learning how to do school in a brand new way. This is kind of what the day in the life of a child would look like in the elementary. It might be ordered a little bit differently, but for the most part, you'll have a morning meeting. And then this might shift a little bit. It might be math, it might be ELA. And then there'll be a brain break, and then you'll have another core academic time like math or ELA. And then there'll be a specialist time, and then they'll have lunch, and then they'll go to their asynchronous lessons. But each one of those little bars in there can kind of move around depending on the schedule. But it's just important to understand that we do have core academic time for math and language arts. And then there's also the specialist time. So those are some key components of our structure. Now, Wednesdays, scholars will be working on asynchronous lesson. This means that they'll log into Launchpad for Learning, and that's how that attendance gets taken. And then they'll be working on their lessons that the teachers have assigned. And that means assignments will be based on previous day's work. There'll be some independent reading, there'll be ready math, there'll be legends of learning. And some scholars may wind up working with teachers and other support staff in small groups to get some extra support. Now, we are very committed to supporting our families in the use of instructional technology, and we're offering regular webinars around technology tools. So make sure to join us for the upcoming Parent View webinar that will help you monitor scholar progress and increase communication. Additionally, we have some other webinars that we've recorded. We have the Canvas, we have Zoom and Remind, and all of those can be found on our district website. About support, here's the thing. Please reach out to us. Mrs. Perry and I are always happy to help answer questions, but your first line of contact is probably going to be that teacher. And they do have time set out in their day to have parent communication and contact before and after school, but you can always reach out to Mrs. Perry and I or the office for support. And we want to hear your voice and get your feedback on how things are working. So while you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, really not a whole lot of way to do back and forth, but if you do have questions or comments, please feel free to bring those to our next Coffee with a Principal meeting. We do them twice a month, and we really look forward to getting that feedback from you. And this is the point in our presentation that we would have dismissed for classroom visits. So thank you so very much for tuning in, and we hope that you've had a wonderful open house.